Good morning from the kitchen, folks. Today I'm going to be making an apple and Vimto cider. So here are the ingredients. This is probably one of the most simple ciders that I'll ever make. It's simply apple juice from concentrate and a bottle of Vimto full sugar squash. This contains no harmful preservatives. I'm just going to mix these together, add the yeast, and that's it. I've got this idea from the Turbo Ciders for All Facebook group, where this seems to be a really popular recipe. I've never tried it, so now it's my turn to jump on the bandwagon. So today for my fermentation vessel, I'm just using a Tesco 5 litre water bottle, which I've bored a hole in the lid of, and I'll just put a bung and airlock in there. And you know, this recipe is literally as easy as this. It does make me want to go to the loo though. And my second litre of juice in. At this point I'm now going to add the Vimto. Just give it a little shake up. I'm going to put the full bottle in. So this is mega. It smells great. Childhood memories. I guess it gives a real new definition to the term a cheeky Vimto. A cheeky turbo Vimto. And number 3. Finally, number 4. I'm filling it right to the top, doesn't matter. I've got to pour some out to take the gravity. And I won't be replacing that. And that's 5 litres on the money. So I'm just going to pour this into my hydrometer jar. And that's now made a little bit of space in the top of the fermentation vessel. It might blow through. If it does, I'll just put a blow-off pipe in. It's no problem. Now my trusty hydrometer. And I'm starting off with an original gravity of 1.054, 1054. Almost the last thing to do now is to add the yeast. I'm using Bulldog Cider Yeast. I'm going to add a heaped teaspoon in there. Shake that through. And you can see that yeast falling through. It's going to have a lovely time in there. Okay, I'm going to put my airlock in now, but here's a top tip for you. Do it without any water in until you've got your airlock fully secured and in place and you've got your fermentation vessel where you want it to be. The reason is that this is a plastic fermentation vessel, and when you're using plastic fermentation vessels, they compress as you push them in. So as I'm pushing this airlock in now, it's pushing outwards, but when I release the airlock, the whole bottle sucks inwards, it breathes, and if you've got water in there, it draws it inside. It can go into your brew, it can damage your brew. So my advice is put it in without water in until you've got it secured in place, and then where you've got this where you want it to stand and ferment. If you need to move it, take the airlock out before you move it, otherwise it's just going to go and suck the water in. It's one of those things that you learn by doing, you learn by brewing. So I've now got the fermentation vessel in place, labelled up, airlock in, and I'm just waiting for the fermentation to begin. So the next film will be after this has fermented and it comes to clearing the cider. So I'll see you then. Good morning from the kitchen, folks. It's Vimto cider bottling day. Let's have a look at it. And here it is in all its glory. It's been in the fermenting vessel for exactly 2 months to the day. And this was a very, very slow starter. It seemed to take between 3 and 5 days to really get going. And then it's just been slow and steady. It hasn't gone mad at any point, and it's been fairly consistent throughout. I've still got some pressure in there, but it's reached the end of its fermenting time now, as far as I'm aware, so I'm going to bottle. So I've got my bottles ready in the sink, and I'm going to prime these with some sugar for carbonation. So for each of the 750ml bottles, I'm going to put one of these in, which is the equivalent of a good heaped teaspoon. And then for the smaller bottles, I'm going to put half that amount in. So then it's bung off, siphoning tube in. So just note that I'm holding the tube in place with this clip. I've got it all the way to the very bottom. I can't really see any sediment in there. I don't know if there is any, but it seems fairly opaque, and I haven't bothered to clear this with fine ends. So I'm just going to hope for the best. But if the bottom bit is sedimenty, then that will go into the hydrometer jar, which is what I'm going to siphon into first, before moving on to the bottles. So let's do it. It seems to be coming out quite slowly. And then into the bottles. Okay, it looks a nice colour in the tube. And I'm glad I'm using some clear bottles so we get to appreciate the colour of it in the bottle as well. So the tap's quite handy because it does hold it in place nicely. It's reacting nicely with the priming sugar, you can see. So this is what causes a sparkle in the bottle. So the yeast, which is in suspension inside this, will react with the sugar. It will eat the sugar to do a little secondary fermentation in the bottle. That will create CO2, which will build up pressure, and that's what makes it sparkling. And there we go, bubbles in the siphoning tube. Tell me that's over. And that is not very much sediment at all. So I've managed to get 4 750s, 4 330s, and I'm not quite sure where I am with this one. About halfway. I might be able to top it up with what's in the hydrometer jar and the excess in the top of some of these bottles. We'll see. So I've done quite well there, and you can see the one at the front is still got a bit of space in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the gravity now and I'm going to pour what's in there, because there's just over 100ml, which I think will then top that one up. So the final gravity of this, so looking at this, the final gravity is exactly 1.000. So I just need to work out the alcohol by volume, and I do that by taking the original gravity of 1.054, and I deduct from that the final gravity of 1.000, which equals 0.054, and then I multiply this figure by 131.25, and that equals a final alcohol by volume of 7%, which is just fine. So I've just put a bit of sugar in that one because I hadn't put any in because I didn't know if I would use it or not. And I'm now going to pour this in through the funnel. I don't normally use what's in the hydrometer jar in case of contamination, but it's just one small bottle, so it won't hurt. Now it's not quite full enough, so what I'm going to do is just very slightly top it up from the other bottles. And there we go, that's worked out nicely. I've got my bottles in place, I now need to get the bungs in. I've made a slight faux pas today, a bit of a schoolboy error. I've gone and run out of the plastic bung supply that I normally use. So I'm going to substitute some of those for liqueur bottle bungs in the hope that that will work. I think it will work, I can't see why it won't. And I've softened the plastic bungs in very hot water because it makes them easier to push in. So now they're the only two plastic ones I've got, so I'm going to have to move on to the liqueur bottle bungs, and hopefully this is going to work. And that went in like a dream, so fingers crossed it will remain airtight. The cage should still hold it in place, so I think it'll be fine, but I've just not done it before, that's all. Okay, so as you can see, I've got both kinds of bungs on the go. They all need holding in place, and in order to do that I use cages, and it's just going to stop the bungs from flying out after the yeast starts to eat the sugar and do a little bit of a fermentation in there, because pressure will build up as it makes CO2. So there you go, so that actually fits nicely. Okay, I've got my bottles bunged and caged. I just need to give them all a rinse now because they've got sticky residue on the outside, and I want these to dry before I can label them. Clean and tidy, best way. Right, I'm just going to leave these now to dry off and go and sort the labels out. I've got my labels made up on a simple template on Microsoft Word. I'm just going to print that out. So I'm now just going to label my bottles as carefully as possible. Try and keep it neat. Take a bit of pride in how they look. And there we go, all labelled and looking fine. So I need to condition my bottles now, and that's just the amount of time I need to leave them for the yeast to eat the sugar which I've put in there to create a bit of sparkle and to give it a bit more body and for the flavour to develop. I'm just putting them in a box. They're in the front bedroom of my house, which as you can see is a bit of a brew room. And during the summer months the temperature stays fairly constant in here, somewhere in between 20 and 21. So all I need to do is just leave them in this box and then come back to them in a couple of weeks' time. And there they all are, so I just need to put these to sleep. So my next film will be the opening and tasting in 2 to 3 weeks' time, so I'll catch you then. Good evening from the kitchen, folks. It's the grand opening night for my Vimto Turbo Cider. What will it be like? Will it taste of Vimto? Will it smell of Vimto? Will it have a sparkle? Will it look good? I don't know. Let's find out. I'm always excited about this one, aren't I? And I'm excited about this one. So this has been in the bottle, carbing and basically maturing for a month. So I'm fairly hopeful that this should be okay. I've got to remember I bottled this one with a standard cork, like a liqueur cork, rather than the plastic ones. I'm hoping it's managed to keep its airtightness, and I'm hoping to get a bit of a pop, but will I? I don't know. Here goes. Small pop, definite vapour, so good sign. What does it look like in the good and Corulus Belgian beer glass? Slightly disappointing. Oh no, there's a sparkle. Maybe because my glass was a little bit on the wet side, because I just washed it out. That suppressed the effervescence, but smells like Vimto. It's got nice clarity. I can see bubbles around the edge. Oh wow, that's lovely. That is really nice. Now I understand why everybody bangs on about Vimto Turbo Ciders. That really is good. It's better than just drinking Vimto. Don't tell the kids. That's really nice. It's got such a sweet berry flavour to it. You definitely get the Vimto. It's absolutely apparent. You can't deny that that doesn't taste like Vimto. It's got quite a cherry quality to it. It's lovely. It's a really nice summer drink, actually. I could imagine this on a really hot evening. Chuck a bit of ice in there or something like that. Bob's your uncle. Anyway, I'm going to enjoy this one. So cheers, folks. I'm glad I've tried the Vimto one at last because everybody else has, so I seem to be very late to the party. But I'll catch you on the next brew, and I'm going to enjoy this tonight. So cheers. The film that you've just watched is a Moss Home and Garden production. You can find more by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. I'd just like to say thank you very much for supporting my YouTube channel and for watching my films. It really is very much appreciated. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my YouTube channel in order to receive future updates about the home and garden films which I upload. You can find my YouTube channel by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. Please click on the red subscribe button. When you've done that, a little bell will appear. If you press that also, then you'll get future updates about the films which I upload. If you like my films, if you like my style of filming, then you might also like my travel channel, which you will find by going to youtube.com/Stuart Moss or type in www.mosstravel.tv. Again, if you could subscribe to that channel, it would be hugely appreciated. If you'd like to get Moss Home and Garden updates on Facebook, then please open Facebook and do a search for Moss Home and Garden, and you will find the page. If you like the page, then you will get future updates on there. And if you'd like to connect on Instagram for home, garden and travel photography, as well as some stories, then my username is StuMoss, STUMOSS. If you'd like to connect on Twitter, then my username is @StuartMoss. And if you'd like to contact me about film usage or any other issue, please just email me on stewmosshomegarden@gmail.com. Once again, thank you very much for supporting my channel, for watching my films. I do appreciate it. I'd just like you all to have a great day.